right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we are talking about the new one from Harmony Korine. It's Baby Invasion, which is available to stream from his Edglrd website and is just absolutely ridiculous. But we have a really fun time talking about it. Joining me, I've got Joe Black returning to the podcast. We also talk a bunch about his previous film, Edglrd, which we were planning on doing an episode on last year and just kind of never got around to it. So happy to finally get to talk a little Edglrd here on the podcast. So a whole bunch of Harmony Korine to talk about today. But before we get to it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on social media at Piecing Pod, and don't forget to join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. And with that said, let's get to Baby Invasion. All right, Joe Black is back with us today, and we are getting into what is sure to be a fun one to talk about. It's Baby Invasion time. How's it going, Joe?
Oh, it's going great. 37 is looking brighter and brighter by the minute.
Absolutely. Well, this movie, of course, the new Harmony Korine, which you and I, we've had. You were on for The Beach Bum a few years back, and we've had plenty of discussions about our shared love of Harmony Korine and all of his weird ideas about cinema and what to do with it. This is certainly a thing to do with it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I remember the first time seeing Gummo, I was like, oh, that's my neighborhood. And then I saw Spring Breakers and I was like, that was around my neighborhood. Like,
Mm,
so I don't know how he like so accurately kind of like captures that being like he's from California.
right.
So like I don't know how he's so perfectly captured like, white trash America, like South, and I don't know. But I feel very tapped into what he's doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I realized I can't remember if I told you this. I've realized that the last like 4 movies he's done, he's released all around my birthday.
Huh. Well,
Spring Breakers came out on my birthday, um, like on the actual day.
mm-hmm.
The Beach Bum came out my birthday week. So did Edglrd, and now this one came out the day before my birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I think he knows. I think he's doing this for you. That's that's why he is destroying the art form of cinema for you.
That
But
that checks out.
yeah.
I mean, I'll take it over. I saw Snow White last night. I'll definitely take this over that any day.
Absolutely. And we did not get a chance to do an Edglrd episode last year, but I'm sure we'll end up talking about it a little bit during this episode because these movies, they definitely feel like they're kind of in tune with one another. They're kind of companion pieces in a way. So I think we'll be able to kind of jump over to Edglrd and then back to Baby Invasion and, somewhat throughout the conversation. But I want to start off before we get to puzzle pieces and ask, because you watched the pure version of Baby Invasion. I watched the impure version. I think I know the only real difference between the two, but what was your experience with the pure version?
I mean, I screened it. I got to watch it with a couple of friends. One of them, a filmmaker who we'll be referencing in this,
Mm,
at Cinephile Video in Santa Monica. They have like a cool little micro cinema there. So we dropped the screen and we cranked the fucking volume,
hell yeah.
and our ears were just bleeding by the end of it, and our eyes were sore too. But yeah, I don't know. It was very like I was surprised at how little actually happened in it.
Yeah.
Like that was surprising for me. And like halfway through, I was just like, yeah, like I can't hang with this movie, but it's a 5-star movie. Like I was like, I can't hang with this, but because like it's too boring and equally disturbing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
even though I was like really enjoying the comments,
Oh yeah.
like
The Twitch stream on the side of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I liked the one of them said like, "Baby got that Illuminati drip." I really liked that.
Yeah. I thought
But
about rewatching the movie and just writing down my favorite comments, but
yeah,
I'm sure someone else will do it. But
yeah, what's funny is like I was like I will never watch this ever again in my life, but I found myself every day since being like I could pop that on again real quick, like
yeah,
check out some of
sure.
that. Now that I know that nothing happens, I'm not waiting for something to happen.
Right.
But the very end like blew my mind.
Hmm.
Like the very end, and I mean, it has to end the same way. I don't know. I don't know what the different versions are necessarily. We'll find out here in a second. But at the end of the impure version, does the camera like ascend and like look down on the main characters, and then God's hands come in and zap them into nothingness
Yes.
before ascending to chasing the rabbit of the universe?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
It's my understanding that the only real difference, and maybe there are little changes throughout, but the main thing, your version did not have a voiceover. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah, mine did.
No.
Yeah, but
Oh.
understand when I say a voiceover, it's not giving you any extra. It's like obviously the burial score is playing constantly through this entire movie. It's almost like techno music with like vocal samples. The dialogue is not telling us anything. It's like chase the rabbit, like things like that, like telling like little messages and stuff like that. So I think that that's the only real difference is that this version, and apparently this is the version that played at Cannes. And so
Your version.
yeah, my version with the voiceover. But whether or not any of that relates to what he's trying to say or do with this movie, or if it's just another layer of stuff mixed into it, yeah, I can't really say for sure there. But
I've got to see it.
Yeah,
Did you get it on Edgelord or on Amazon?
I got it on Edgelord. So
okay, so we'll have to swap for the day.
Yeah, I'm sure that
because now I do want to watch it again with this with this voiceover.
Absolutely.
That son of a bitch.
So, let's start getting into some puzzle pieces. What do you have for your first one?
The Bling Ring.
All right.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
What's funny is I talk about how like boring this movie was at times and how hard it was to get through. The Bling Ring was so boring when I saw it in the theater that I actually like went to sleep in the theater. I didn't like fall asleep. I was like, I'm gonna sleep now.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on my side and put my hands and
And then I remember this. I don't remember what I dreamed, but I remember waking up thinking that dream was so boring. It's interesting. Coppola, she made her big old splash, with the Virgin Suicides, which I saw that when I was in film school, and it just didn't do a lot for me. But people told me it's because I wasn't a girl, and I was like, fine, sure, enjoy being a girl, then I guess. And then I saw Lost in Translation. I thought it was pretty good, But then Marie Antoinette. Oh yeah, I really like Marie Antoinette. But then by the time we got to the Bling Ring, it's just like you don't have anything left to say. Yeah, you're rich. Like you just know rich people. Like I don't know. I was just totally checked out, and it felt like she was just doing her Sofia Coppola thing at that point. This Harmony Korine, it's like again, like he's taking that to like the nth degree. It's almost a commentary on that kind of thing about like rich people making movies about this kind of thing. He's not poor,
Sure.
you know what I mean? But he's still indulging in like at the beginning when they're like loading up their guns and shit, like they're in like just the trashiest. I've been in that house 100 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Speaking of which, by the way, I genuinely wondered if the mansion that they're robbing is his house. Like that's how rich he probably is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's the same mansion that they show in Edglrd too.
I think so. It looked like it. Yeah.
So that checks out. That checks out that it would be his.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that what's cool about Korine is that he's in his wheelhouse, but every time it's like some new wild take on what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Sofia Coppola, where it's like and I feel bad for her because she tried her wild take, which was Marie Antoinette, and she let the booze at Cannes like scare her away from being original ever again. And it's a bummer because I thought that she was really getting at something with Marie Antoinette.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, of course, it's something she can relate to. She was born into royalty too, and she like got ostracized when she was just a teenager for something that her dad made her do, which is The Godfather 3. So I think that she could really relate to Marie Antoinette in a lot of ways. And it's just so funny that people were just so like offended by that movie. This is wild.
Her career is very strange. It goes really all over the place, and it's hard to know what we're getting from her at any given moment. But I'm going to, you started with a movie you didn't like as a puzzle piece. I'm going to also do that for my first one. It's the one that I keep going back to here for this movie. We're All Going to the World's Fair, the Jane Schoenbrunn film. Have you ever seen it?
No, I saw the other one.
Yeah, I saw the TV Glow.
TV Glow, yeah.
Yeah, I did not like this movie at all. I did like I saw the TV Glow, but both We're All Going to the World's Fair and Baby Invasion both seem to be some form of commentary on just like, the experience of like extremely online people and like
Mm.
how they view the world and how the world views them in return, and just very depressive, sad, like views of that. And her film is much more depressing, and nothing happens whatsoever, and it's just really hard to watch. Whereas Harmony Korine, it's still a Harmony Korine movie. Nothing happens, like you said, but at the same time, there's some really dumb shit that like makes me laugh, and so it's
Oh
much
yeah.
much easier to get through. But both movies are stuck in this kind of spinning wheels, kind of online, just doing nothing existence that I guess young people, that's how they feel. And Harmony does seem to be tapped into like what a lot of young people are feeling with all of his movies, really going all the way back to, everything from Trash Humpers all the way through to Spring Breakers and now to here. It's always something on his mind. And I think that We're All Going to the World's Fair was something that was also doing that. And a lot of people seem to connect with it, but I definitely didn't. But I guess looking back at it now, I kind of get where maybe they're coming to it from a different point of view, but the same idea.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons I never saw that one was because I only knew about it because of, you, and I think maybe even Jason Harris, or like the people on Letterbox who I follow, which are not many. Everyone posted about not liking it.
Hmm.
Now, like the funny thing is that everyone that I follow is, they're my friends, so they're all in like my age range.
Hmm.
So maybe, maybe somebody younger,
Right.
but I've never met anybody who connected with that movie. And then when I saw TV Glow, I remember thinking like, I felt the same way about that I felt about Bodies, Bodies, Bodies,
Hmm.
where I was like, I hate this, but like, A, it's not for me,
Right.
obviously, and B, it's well made.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just couldn't stand it. You know what I mean? And it's not even like the content. It's just like ugh. Like I don't care about like the youth culture in that way. And there's just a big disconnect because I'm getting old. I guess I don't know.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Um, but I think that one of the things that I like about Harmony Korine and why he's been able to, I mean, when you think about it, he's been making movies now for this is 30 years. Kids was 95, right?
Yeah.
So he's been 30 years he's been doing his thing. And I think one of the reasons why he's still around is because he does the not romanticized version of any of this shit.
Hmm.
Like, and Trash Humpers is like the best example because that came right in the thick of the found footage craze. After Cloverfield was blown up and Paranormal Activity and all that, he was like, that's a found footage movie that actually feels like a videotape that you found
Sure.
like in a
Sure.
garage sale, and you're like, oh shit, should I report this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of his MO, and he goes and I appreciate that about him. I appreciate, and that's how this movie is too. Like this could have been a video game, like more like a video game, more like a blah blah blah. But no,
Sure.
he's like, this is like kind of a dull, hypnotic, you know, um, lifestyle based in like the worst impulses in us.
Totally. Yeah, I would
You
I
know?
would I would combine Baby Invasion with Aggro Drift and say together they are the closest thing he's done to Trash Humpers since Trash Humpers, because they are both in that same vein of found footage, or in this case found video game. And I think that Baby Invasion, although it doesn't necessarily resemble a real video game in any way, it does resemble like the strange games that you would find on like Steam or like any of these like kind of online marketplaces, where the games are just, they're not the Nintendo and the Sega and the Sony games. They're just these weird little online games that are sometimes really freaking cool and sometimes practically unplayable.
Yeah, see, I don't know anything about games either. Like, I was not a gamer growing up. Like, we had
Hmm.
a Nintendo, and then I got a Nintendo 64, and all I played on it was Tony Hawk and
Sure.
No Mercy, WWF No Mercy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like, I was never like a gamer. So, like, that world completely escapes me too. And it's funny. I guess now's a good time to talk about it. I watched this film with Damon Packard,
Hmm.
who's like an underground filmmaker who's like this is definitely grooving to his music as well, this movie. But he was talking about how this movie is not like any kind of video game, and that video games themselves are much more cinematic.
Hmm.
And but again, me not knowing anything about video games, I had to take his word for it. But but again, what Harmony Korine I think is getting at is the truth about what it is to sit and play a video game all
Right.
fucking.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's not like it's not like the accuracy of the game. It's like the accuracy of playing a game.
Right, of just being
But
sucked into nothing for hours and
right.
hours on end, just wasting away, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's funny, I had to send Damon. I found a couple of letterbox reviews now that are like shouting him out, like
nice.
people that I don't follow. I just looked at the reviews for. They're like, we're entering Packard territory here.
I think Damon Packard as a filmmaker is a puzzle piece here. He would fit.
Absolutely.
He would definitely fit.
Like, and legitimately so. I guarantee you Harmony Korine has seen Reflections of Evil and really
Yeah,
liked it.
yeah,
Same
sure.
thing as who is that? Bo is Afraid.
Ari Aster.
Ari Aster. Ari
Yeah.
Aster should like pay Damon Packard because Ari Aster lifted the entire first hour of Bo is Afraid from Damon's movie,
Hmm.
like from Reflections of Evil.
Yeah.
Some of the shots even are like total replications of it. And it's so funny. Damon, he's the kind of guy, if you know him, he's kind of he's out there. Let's put
Hmm.
it that way. And he watched Bo is Afraid. And we were all talking shit about it. He's like, oh, I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting. And we're like, yeah, Damon, because that's your movie. And he's like, what? And we're like, yeah, dude, that's Reflections of Evil. He goes, oh yeah,
I guess
I
so.
guess so. Yeah, yeah. He's like, oh yeah, oh that's they it's
That's awesome.
such a bizarre man. But
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. Well, let's go to another piece. What do you got next?
Oh yeah, it's my turn.
Yeah, there
Um,
you go.
yeah. What was that movie with the Out of Sight? Out of Sight.
Mm.
The Steve Soderbergh talk about another 30-year running or 40-year almost at this point running auteur. Him I can't stand though. But Out of Sight is one of the rare, ones of his I can stomach. But the whole last act of that movie is like a very slow kind of like bumbling and almost carefree in a way home invasion.
Hmm.
Like, with all like the little, like running around looking for the safe, trying to crack it, the whole thing with the fish and all that, like
Sure.
it very much reminded me of, and again, because I'm such a movie lover, I wanted more of that kind of quality from this movie. And then about 30 minutes in, I was like, maybe even 5 minutes in after that, like really long van drive, I was like, I was asking for something out of a Harmony Korine movie.
Right. You
What am,
can't.
what
You
am I?
can't.
What am I, a noob?
Yeah.
Like,
You absolutely could not do that. But yeah, I haven't seen Out of Sight since it first came out. But now that you're mentioning it, that is a good one. I like that. Um, I'll go with the Screen Life movies like Searching and Unfriended. I don't think you can make this movie without like that kind of setting up the idea of watching a movie that's through a screen and you're seeing all the elements of what the person playing the game in this case, or watching a movie, or being on the internet is seeing, including the web browsers and the programs and all the menus and all that kind of stuff. The player in Baby Invasion even has to save his game at times during this movie. It's so ridiculous, but yeah, I don't think that you can like kind of make this without those movies coming first and kind of setting the tone in a much more normal narrative. Even though those movies were kind of ahead of their time and weird, but much more normal compared to something that you're going to be sitting through when you watch Baby Invasion.
yeah, see, and again, I feel like I never saw any of those kinds of movies, and it's just because I'm like webcam. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like, I know that Julia Fox did one of those too, right? Like a
Uh,
fangirl movie
yes.
thing.
What was that called? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That was her first thing after Uncut Gems, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, I get it. Um, I do get it. I like, talking about like trash humpers, like I love trash humpers. Like
Mm.
it's a masterpiece. Like after I saw it the first time for a whole week, I just make it, don't fake it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't, and singing the Three Little Devils song from that movie, like I loved it. But I also really liked Cloverfield.
Mm.
Like
Me
so
too.
like that's kind of but one of the reasons why I liked Cloverfield uh, was because sure it was a found footage movie, but it didn't feel confined by that,
Mm.
and they went, and it was also like a big blockbuster thing, and it's like, right, that's why I put my shoes on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to go to the theater, like because it's like, yeah, like I want to go and have an experience.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to go and just witness something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like the found footage thing, just in one ear out the other most of the time, but then you add a fucking webcam to it, so it's like found footage from something that doesn't move. Oh boy,
I
you
love that.
know.
I love that it was just Joe's birthday, and he's like these young kids with their webcams.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah,
I'll say the of the found footage craze. I actually really liked Paranormal Activity 3.
yeah, that's a good one.
That one was really cool
Wait, that's the one where
because
they fix the camera on the rotating
on the
fan.
oscillating
Yeah,
fan.
yeah,
Like, that was so brilliant.
yeah,
I remember watching that in the theater, and, like, the first time, because I saw it twice, the first time I almost couldn't even, like, take in what was happening, because I was just like, "This is such a genius concept
yeah,
to create tension," that, like, Hitchcock himself would have been like, "Oh, well,
yeah,
pardon me." Like, you know? Um, and again, I'm sitting there watching this movie, waiting for, in that panning shot, famously, like, they pan back over, then all of a sudden, everything just falls from the fucking ceiling,
yeah,
the last time. I'm waiting for, like, that kind of thing to happen in this movie where, like, the cops show up and it becomes just like, or they all turn on each other or something, you know what I
sure,
mean?
sure.
Just waiting for that. But then Harmony Korine, that son of a bitch, he's like, "Well, let me just bring God into the equation."
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
And selling
yeah,
us 2 copies of the movie at $15 a piece. But
dude, he's a visionary.
yeah, he sure is. What do you got for your next piece?
Cop Out.
Of course. I'll allow it only because it's your birthday weekend, but
No, no, well, I mean, like, the home invasion guy who stops to take a shit.
yeah, okay.
Like
Sure.
like
Okay.
that's the best sequence in Cop Out, like where they're watching him from, from the sand dunes, they're watching him through the windows, him taking a shit. Hey, how can you take a shit in a high pressure situation like that?
Mm,
And this guy, not only does he go in and take a shit, but he like lifts his legs and starts giving the
giving the
finger the whole
finger.
time. It's so good. It's so good. And that's like at the exact halfway point of the movie where like Harmony's like, let me make sure that these people are still watching. Like, like that's so brilliant. And I actually really did appreciate too the amount of middle finger to the POV cam in
Yeah.
that movie. That also speaks to him being a child of the 90s.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
it's funny. My buddy actually, he and his wife, they just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and he sent me a picture of the kid, resting on the mom's shoulder, and the kid had its middle finger out, and I was
Nice.
like, wow, like she already knows it's cool to
Yeah.
like flip off the camera.
That's
You're
gonna be a
raising her
cool
right.
kid. Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
absolutely.
It don't get cooler than that, folks.
Oh boy, I will go with Doom, the Rock first person shooter, trying to bring the video game Doom into the cinematic world. Flopped incredibly hard and was not good.
Yeah, for good reason. Yeah.
Yeah, so but trying to do a first person shooter as a movie and stick with the first person point of view and do that whole experience and try to translate that to the screen, not very easy. It's there's a reason that these movies don't work very well unless there's something interesting happening, that that the filmmaker has something worth saying with the first person point of view. It's a really tough thing to do, and it doesn't work that well here. Although, like we said, there's certain things that kind of take you out of it in a way that just make it where it's like, okay, this is just going for something, and at least we could have fun with that.
Right. Yeah, I remember the ads for Doom, not necessarily the trailers, but when movie theaters used to play like 15 minutes of pre-show entertainment
Hmm.
that I remember like the little making ofs and them talking about this POV sequence.
Yeah,
And I remember thinking, "Oh, it's just a sequence?" Like, that's kinda like I don't know, it takes the piss out of it. So I never even saw Doom in the theater, and you know me, I'm like the target audience for that, like,
yeah,
big, stupid C plus sci-fi,
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Plus, it was The Rock when
Plus
he
The
was still
Rock.
just The Rock,
Yeah, yeah.
before he was even Dwayne The Rock, like, so and I just hard passed on that movie, and this actually works in the puzzle piece I was gonna say is Hardcore Henry,
Uh huh.
was
Sure.
the same thing, was like that POV, that one I did try to go see in the theater, but it was really bad. So I walked out. I just got bored with it after 20 minutes. But Doom, I remember like it was like kind of like a cop out. It was kind of like and then Hardcore Henry I only saw because I appreciated that it was the whole movie.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember seeing that music video. I can't remember, what was the name of the song that those guys did the music video? It's called like Bad Motherfucker or something like
Something
that.
like that. I don't really
Yeah.
remember.
And the video was dope. Like that was a cool video, but
It works at a shorter sequence like that. It works a little
it
bit
really
better.
it really does. And even this movie, like, like comes out of the POV thing every now and then.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like there's that whole centerpiece where it like pulls out into like this like VR matrix of
We
sorts,
also get the intro and outro with the interview with the supposed game designers, which I love that, by the way. I don't
Awesome.
really have a puzzle piece for it, but just to kind of bring it up, I love that it just totally obscures what the fuck is going on with this entire movie right from the get-go. You have no idea, is this real? Is there a game? Are these the developers? Like there's no telling.
And even the thing right in the middle, like, when they finish invading the first home right before the baby invasion head comes out, where it's like, "This is not a video game, this is not a movie, this is not real life."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's actually really scary, and, like, I mean, he's so brilliant. But, hey, Eminem said it best, "Visionary, vision is scary." You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Good
It's
stuff.
true though, like, it really is actually, like, and that's why I find it so fascinating that he brought it to God in the end.
Mm,
Like, that's so interesting, and what was also interesting about his perspective on God in the end was it didn't even seem like God was, like, a vengeful God or punishing them, like, God was just, like, saying, like, "No, like, you don't get to live forever, like, there is a game over."
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Well,
that's so
he's
weird.
playing a game too this whole time. Like it's all just a
Right,
game, basically.
right.
Everything, layers
Yeah.
and layers of game, but and games are just fucking stupid. But
Uh-huh.
I'll throw in it kind of goes along with that. I'll go in with the documentary Feels Good Man about Pepe the Frog. Which is
Mm.
one of the best documentaries I've seen of the last decade. All about how Pepe the Frog was co-opted by the alt-right in online message boards, Reddit, and all that kind of stuff. And it just goes down the rabbit hole of just how stupid online culture is, and especially gamer culture and all that kind of stuff. And that is, I think, kind of where Harmony Korine's head is at right now with both Aggro Drift and Baby Invasion. I think that that is just something that's really on his mind, just about what people are spending their time on, like the kind of content, to use that word, that they are just sucking up their time, just absorbing constantly and not doing anything else. And it's fucking not healthy at all. And it's just leading everything into just a straight to the bottom, basically. And Feels Good Man is just absolutely horrifying. And I think Baby Invasion and Aggro Drift kind of are too in that way.
AgroDrip, yeah, like, I haven't seen that, and I remember the whole Pepe the Frog thing, the whole Pepe the Frog controversy, and then I just remember thinking, like, "Man, the internet is a place where people go just to, like, kill time." I don't know how it's, like, because that's just so stupid, like,
Yeah.
like, there's like you were saying, and I think about AgroDrift, and now that we have this movie in context, it's kind of cool that, you could argue that, like, the hitman in AgroDrift is Harmony Korine.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, and because he obviously likes these video games and stuff like that. He thinks they're cool. He gets it. He understands it. But at the same time, he's like an old man who, like, wants to be with his wife and his children, and
Sure.
and he also has, like, what's his name, Travis Scott, in that movie, who he,
Yeah.
like, inspires. He's like his sensei,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he's just, like, kind of the head of, like, a group of, like, dunderheads. You know what I mean? Who are just like, like, just having a good time, like, yeah, like, this is all, and this movie is, like, basically that group,
Yeah.
like, without their leader.
Sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Without, like, the old way, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, it's endlessly fast. I think I like Aggro Drift more than this one. I mean, I don't think, I know I like
Yeah,
Aggro
for
Drift more than this
sure.
one. But again, because, like, like, I more identify with that journey and that kind of, and not being somebody who lives. I mean, dude, I only have Facebook,
Yeah.
and the only reason I have Facebook is so I can look at the puzzle pieces page.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that's, I'm serious. Like, that's 95% of my internet engagement is on the puzzle pieces page and these podcasts. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? So, like, that's it. And I do listen to a lot of YouTube while I'm driving as, like, podcasts, but you start to see, like, even that culture, it all is just like, you start to realize it's just like little kids playing dress up. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, in this new media landscape that, like, that's trying to find its footing, like, it's so unprofessional, and I don't mean unprofessional in, like, some kind of elitist sense. I literally mean in an undisciplined,
Yeah.
structureless way. And, like, 90% of this new media stuff or these podcasts are like, they just sound like, English essays,
Mhm.
like junior year of English class essays that you write, and you start to notice everybody has the same inflection, and it's all it's all like you said, it's all just kind of a game.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like Pierce Morgan, is the fucking Jerry Springer of new media. That's it. It's all just like it's all just nothing.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I watch movies.
And
Movies like Panic Room, which is my next puzzle
all
piece.
right. I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, not only like the whole home invasion thing, but also like trying to get the safe, trying to get, like they can't get out until they get the money in the or the whatever in the safe. And then I also Dwight Yoakam being in that movie. I'm a huge fan of Dwight Yoakam. He
Hmm.
he will convince me to see a movie. Like I remember, do you remember that movie Banditas with Penelope Cruz and
Yeah.
Selma
Yeah.
Hayek? I looked at that cover for 10 years. I worked at Blockbuster when it came out, two beautiful women with in like, with guns and stuff on the cover. Never had any interest. And then one day I'm surfing through Amazon and I see it and I see Dwight Yoakam listed in the cast. I'm like, oh shit.
Let's
And
do
I hit
this.
play. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Harmony Korine likes to use a lot of like musicians and he's very musically inclined. He's and so like the Dwight Yoakam kind of link there too for me
Hmm.
works as well.
I
And
like it.
Panic Room, to me, Panic Room is Fincher in his lane. Like I think that like Fincher is nothing but a B schlock dork
Yeah.
who who every time he tries to put on his big boy pants, it's like watching Joseph Gordon-Levitt trying to act like an action star.
Oh boy.
Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I love, but like you see him in like an Inception, he puts on his big boy voice like this. Like that's David Fincher to me as a director. I mean, I do love The Social Network. I'll give him that.
All
But
right. All right.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh boy. I'm gonna throw in here. Okay, actually, I'm gonna bring up Infinity Pool, the Brandon Cronenberg film, which I absolutely love. But there is a whole sequence in that is a group of people going to rob rich people's houses wearing creepy masks, and at its
Mm.
core, I mean. I didn't know exactly what I was getting going into Baby Invasion, but I did know that a group of people were going to pull off a robbery of a house with their faces replaced by AI babies,
Ugh.
which I feel like we haven't even mentioned yet. We're like 30 minutes into this. We haven't mentioned that their faces are replaced by baby faces with AI. But yeah, so I mean, it's kind of that sequence stretched out to 80 minutes is kind of the basic way to explain what Baby Invasion is, except for once it starts, nothing actually happens. But again, it's a Harmony Korine film, so what are you going to do? But yeah, so baby faces, what do you think about all that?
It's so simple and on the nose that it's brilliant.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it reminds me of Spring Breakers. Actually, when James Franco even has the line in Spring Breakers where he's like, "Your name's Faith. That mean you got faith?" Like, like it's so like, and that's what a jester does. That's what That's what like That's why like true comedians are prophetic. Somebody like Dave Chappelle or something like that because they actually see the world. They're visionaries and they
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
the humor in how primitive we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what, the whole, I mean, the baby face avatars to me reminded me so much of John Goodman's hair in Righteous Gemstones season 4, where like it
Incredible.
took me so long to like adjust to how funny of an image that was
Uh-huh.
that I kind of like I almost the first 5 minutes of this movie, much like Gemstones, feels almost like it didn't even happen because
Uh-huh.
I just had to adjust to how funny just all these baby face people like smoking cigars and like giving the finger and like loading their guns and like rubbing paintings. So taking selfies, like it's so funny. Um and how does he do it? How does he get away with it?
I
Like,
know.
you know why? Because he actually thinks that all that shit is cool.
Uh-huh.
Like, and I guess maybe that's the Florida white trash in me too. That like I think so too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like when I see those houses and all those guns, I'm like, that's fucking sick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
when James Franco in Spring Breakers is doing his "Look at my shit" sequence, I'm like, hell yeah!
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you get him, alien. You
Yeah.
are the American dream.
He sure is.
But at
He
the same
sure
time, I'm
is.
like, I'm glad I moved.
Yeah. Well, let's go to another piece. What do you got?
Well, actually, before you talked about this sequence in Infinity Pool, but that's also a sequence in Spring Breakers. There's the Britney Spears sequence where they're robbing all these people who are like on
Sure.
vacation and weddings and stuff like that. And I remember when that movie came out, I worked at ArcLight, and I knew the minute mark where that happened in the movie, and I used to go in and watch that like every time it
So
played. Like
good.
I've seen that sequence on the big screen probably 50 times.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. And watching it in IMAX the other day, it was weirdly nostalgic watching that movie and just remembering that was the beginning of my journey in LA. Anyways,
Yeah.
my last puzzle piece that I have is a kind of a throwaway. I call these the Chads,
Ah,
the dangling Chads, because
sure.
he has so many of these. Bowfinger,
Oh,
there's a section in Bowfinger which I probably talked about that on this show before, but I really do think that if you're going to make an independent film, it should be like a law, like not even like a rule, but a law that you have to watch Bowfinger before you make your first independent film.
mm,
But there's a sequence where Eddie Murphy, they're trying to get him to run up to the top of the observatory for this big final action set piece. And the way that they're guerrilla filming it is they break into the control room and they just start filming each individual screen. They start panning back and forth between all the individual security monitor screens.
sure.
And that's act two of this movie, is like somebody in like the digital world, like operating like the different like cams, like clicking back and forth between the different like viewpoints. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So again, it's not like anything, like it just reminded me of Bowfinger.
That's great. I love it. It's such a funny sequence. And yeah, in this movie, it's like, it's just trying all different kinds of weird shit with technology just kind of mixed together in this thing. And, but yeah, Bowfinger rules. I need to rewatch that. I haven't seen it in so many years, but so much fun.
That's one of the craziest things you've ever said to me. Harmony Korine and Damon Packard, though, they both do something similar. And I don't say this as a criticism to either of them, but they kind of make movies that safeguard themselves from criticism.
Oh, sure.
And
Sure.
and and there's power in that. You know what I mean? That's interesting. But at the same time, it's a little like there's a reason why Damon is still underground. And there's a reason, because when all you can do is kind of like criticize, or comment, when you can't actually like engage,
Mm,
like you're kind of limited as to what you can do. And I think that Harmony Korine like came a little too close with Spring Breakers to actually engaging,
right, right.
um, and decided it wasn't for him. Which is interesting. So he's bought himself movies like this, in my opinion, because he kind of proved with Spring Breakers that he could if he wanted to.
Right, right.
But and also he's kind of like, he is older now, you know what I mean? Like, so he's, you're talking about the guy who got famous for making a movie called Kids.
Mm,
Like he's not gonna hit those same kind of topics anymore. It's not gonna be as relevant. What is it? Andre 3000 said the reason why he's not gonna do any more hip hop is because the keyword in hip hop is hip.
right, sure.
And
Yeah.
he's like, I'm 60 or I'm 50. You know what I mean? So I respect it in a way, but at the same time, um, how much good does it actually do if the people who get what he's doing are only the people who already get it?
Right, right. Speaking of that, I wonder the people who are on these films, because most of these actors are not like big actors or anything like that. I wonder how much these people get what he's doing, or how much it's just like this weird gig with that Harmony Korine guy, and like I don't know, like it must be a weird process to be in something like this or Aggro Drift.
Sure.
Yeah,
I think that Aggro Drift had a little more, I could see Aggro Drift having a little more of an appeal in a way, because you've got, the bad guy from Bad Boys 2,
amazing.
or
Yeah.
or Riddick, the third Riddick movie,
Ah, okay.
like that movie, which I do.
Yeah.
Also came out the same year as Spring Breakers, just saying.
Mm.
But like that seemed a little more like a movie. You even got like a hitman and you know what I mean, and a villain. The fucking humping demon wing guy. That
So
guy.
good. So
Yeah,
good.
you've got like a big boss. Like this one, I feel like he must have just gotten like his buddies and was just like, you know what I mean. Like I don't think they even thought they were making a movie. I thought they were just like goofing around.
The blonde girl in this movie, I don't know names, but she just seemed like she was there. Like
Yeah.
not even performing, like she was just there.
You talking about the girl in the second house, the main girl that they take
Yes.
outside? He's like, "Sing me a song."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like his friend or something. Like, yeah, it's very yeah, very guerrilla filmmaking. But last piece I had was Reservoir Dogs, because all the team members having
Oh
color
yeah.
names. So, a little bonus piece in there to throw in. But Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about Baby Invasion. It's such a strange experience of a movie. You know, like we've said throughout this, the idea of video games at this point in the culture is just it's so dumb, and it's like it's kind of a movie like this is exactly right for their kind of culture, and I think it is speaking to that culture. And I don't know whether gamers would like what they would get out of this, if they would be like, hell yeah, he's making a movie that's representing video games, or if they would be offended by that, or what it would be. But it certainly is pointed towards that. And I mean, his own Edgelord programmers who are supposedly making video games as part of the whole Edgelord overall project. Like, I wonder what they even think about all this. It's just so hard to tell.
Yeah, because it's kind of one of those things where you feel like if they would have to think that they're in on it,
Yeah.
the people that this movie is about, you know what I mean? And like, so if they even do come at it from that angle, like, is it going to have any kind of effect? You know, I guess we also could have mentioned the World of Warcraft South Park episode.
I was also thinking
It's
of the
very similar to
Matrix
that.
Resurrections, or
Oh,
you know, that was
now we're talking.
anything
But anyway,
anything video game related. But yeah,
but back to the video game. You just I don't know why that only popped in my head as you were talking about the kids who actually do this watching it. Like I just thought of like the South Park kids getting all fat and pimply
yeah,
playing World of Warcraft.
yeah,
Just amazing. Mom bathroom, funniest moment on
so
that
good.
show ever.
Yeah.
But but yeah, again, I think that just kind of points to like who's this for other than Harmony Korine fans, there's something about like the edge lord thing that like is what he's doing like postmodern.
Right.
You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like is the joke that edge lords are lame?
You're right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, is that the joke? Because like I know my heart. I'm not a cynic in
Hmm.
that way, which is I think the biggest difference between the kinds of movies that you and I like. You know what I
Sure.
mean? I'm not cynical. Not that you're a cynic, but you don't mind a good bit of cynic
I
irony,
can
you
be.
know?
I can be
Yeah,
at
sure,
times.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that kind of thing, like that just doesn't appeal to me at all.
Hmm.
You know, and yet, and you know what I think it is about Harmony Korine is that he seems like not only does he understand and maybe even indulge himself in some of the things that his movies are about, but that he also admires it in a way.
Hmm.
Almost like at the beginning of what's that movie that I like? The Disaster Artist, when Greg sees Tommy for the first time on stage.
Yeah.
Like it's not even necessarily that he thinks Tommy is like an amazing actor, but he thinks what he's doing is amazing.
Right. Right.
Like, I could never do that, you know? And so even all the way back to like Gummo, like the scene where like that fucking guy is just wrestling that chair and everybody's like cheering him on. He's just wrestling it's just some drunk asshole with no shirt on wrestling a chair in a kitchen.
Yeah.
I've been in that kitchen and I'll tell you this, it's fucking awesome. Like when your buddy goes off, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's fucking cool. And Harmony Korine, he's, like, I bet he's into, like, wrestling. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
Like, WWE, like, we just went to Medieval Times yesterday, and, like, my wife on the way home, she goes, "I finally get wrestling now." Like, even though it's
Mm.
choreographed, it's still amazing to watch. Like, you can't help but, like, have a respect for it. I mean, he even said Spring Breakers was a movie I was at the Q&A, I worked the Q&A, that he did for it. When somebody asked him, "Where'd you get the idea for this movie?" He said, "When I was watching Girls Gone Wild."
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I think that's the I think and what we were saying about aggro drift in this movie, how aggro drift was like the old sensei, who's in this world now, and then this one's about them without their sensei. I think it's kind of like the flip of Spring Breakers,
Mm.
where like he's making this whole commentary about like modern youth culture while not condemning it. He's also pointing out like, guys, this is fucked up how like you literally taken black culture, tried to make it your own,
Yeah.
but then when you actually get faced with like what's happened to black culture, it's violent, destructive, and scary, and you run away, and all the white girls get to go home scot
Of
free.
course.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like after so like he's making a commentary, but at the same time, he likes all this shit.
Yeah.
And I bet you $1,000,000 that Harmony Korine has hung out with Gucci Mane before he even thought about making a movie.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like he's in that, and that's why Beach Bum is the flip is like the aggro drift to
Sure.
that movie.
I
Like
think
Beach
so
Bum
too. Yeah.
is the old man, the old sensei, the Ben Kenobi who lives in that world and digs on it, man. Like, yeah, I just dig it. I'm doing my own thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I dig on it.
Yeah.
And at the end of Beach Bum, he delivers his opus poem and then he fakes his own death so that he could just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
And you could almost argue that that was, you know, Spring Breakers in a way.
Yeah.
Because since then, even Beach Bum, he's been doing this non-cinema thing,
Yeah.
just diving deeper and deeper into his own, like, whatever he wants to do. So more power to him. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I'll keep going back, even though like this one and even Edglrd, which I really liked, were endurance tests.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
feel like anyone who listens to this episode who hasn't watched the movies is probably like, how could they say they liked this movie? But at the same time,
yeah.
like I had a good time with this movie.
I'll tell you why, because I'm a fucking artist.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean that in any kind of brag or whatever, but that's because like I like he is too, and so for me, I'm engaging with it from that lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not saying that that makes me any kind of like whatever, but like that's just how that's what I'm getting excited about. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm getting excited about somebody who's going like, boom,
Yeah.
so that, that's what I respect out of him.
Right on. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Joe, is there another movie you watched recently you want to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, actually, I saw uh uh it's kind of two. One, I saw The Zero Effect with Bill Pullman, Ben Stiller. Have you ever seen this movie?
I feel like I did back. It came out in like the 90s, like late
Yeah,
90s.
what's so weird is that like I've seen the cover of this movie forever, but it just looked like a shitty like Guy Ritchie ripoff action movie. Like it looked like, The Way of the Gun or something like
Hmm.
that. But it's actually like a really like incredible detective story that's like a dramatic comedy that's like if you like Knives Out but wish it had a little less Wes Anderson, like
Mm,
that's this movie. It's like Knives Out without the Wes Anderson twee quality.
okay.
Um, it's brilliant. But I also been watching I watched Clive Barker's movies here recently. He only made 3 of them, but I watched Lord of Illusions rather, and The Night Breeders.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you've seen these movies.
No.
Um, oh my god. Uh, like this guy's made 3 films and they're all 5-star masterpieces as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned. Talk about like talk about he these movies are so twisted, so weird, so warped, but they're also so much fun because you get that spirit, that tenacity that only crazy people can have when they make movies. And they're
Yeah.
like, "What? I have $7 million to make a movie that has 17 monsters in it and ends in a gigantic battle between monsters and police in a cemetery." Sure, that's
Yeah.
plenty.
Yeah.
What do I do with the other 5 million? Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Sure.
So if you're a fan of like, you know, if you're a fan of Guillermo del Toro, if you're a fan of David Cronenberg, if you're a fan of like slasher 80s, like Clive Barker's movies are just like just heaven, just
Yeah.
bliss. I love these fucking movies. And I'd seen Hellraiser years before, but these 2 had escaped me and now I just can't get enough of either of them.
I'm gonna have to watch those. They sound great, and
They're tailor-made for you.
yeah, I think I will love them. And I watched Hellraiser for the first time somehow just a few years ago, and I loved it so much. So
Yeah, and talk
yeah,
about a movie that's not what you would expect it to be.
totally.
Like
Yeah.
like I saw it 10 years ago at the New Beverly as a midnight. My buddy dragged me to it. We had just started becoming friends, and now he's one of my closest and dearest friends. But like he was like, "Oh, you've got to see Hellraiser." And I was like, "Oh, do I? Do I
Hmm.
gotta?"
Right. Yeah.
And then when I watched it, I was like, "Man, fuck!" like
Yep.
he got me.
100%. 100%. Well, Joe, where can people find you and everything you're up to?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that. I haven't done this in so long. I like it's
Has been a
um,
while. Yeah.
it has, yeah, yeah. We've still got our website, Blue Means Pregnant Films, that I really got to update because it still says our newest movie is Natasha Hall. Womp
Mm.
womp. That's 4 years ago, folks. But we have just recently partnered with Anchor Bay, the distribution company that brought you the Evil Dead movies and
Hmm.
Django Unchained and Hateful Eight. They're releasing a western that we made 11 years ago, a western called Hate Horses. And they're also releasing a punk rock backstage drama we did uh 13 years ago called The Yellow Bellies, which is why I know David, why I know you, because that was the film that we entered into Chad's Film Festival
Yeah.
in 2013. That movie's called The Yellow Bellies. So The Yellow Bellies and Hate Horses are both coming out this year, and they're getting through Anchor Bay, and they're getting theatrical releases.
So cool.
Yeah, and then they'll be followed by disc, and then we've got I Don't Know, our newest film that we just made, is going to get released through them either at the end of the year or beginning of next year. So we're very excited about partnering up with Anchor Bay, and yeah, it's looking like we've really found a good home for what we do. So
Amazing. Amazing. All right, on Joe. Great getting you back on the show, and we will talk to you again sometime soon.
catch you later.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Baby Invasion. Thank you to Joe Black for joining me on that one, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're enjoying piecing it together, make sure you are subscribed. We got a lot of episodes on the way. We got a few live shows lined up right now that you could check piecingpod.com to get all the details on, but those are all on the way. We also have some others recorded already. They're coming, and plenty more to cover. So yeah, get subscribed wherever it is that you listen to this podcast. You could also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. Also, I want to remind you, I think I mentioned it on the last episode, the new The Pup Pups album is now available for pre-order. You can find that at thepuppups.bandcamp.com. It's called Another One Already, but you just had one, because of course we just had a new The Pup Pups album in December, but we've got 18 new songs already ready for you. So get those pre-orders in, and if you do, you'll get your pet included on a special bonus song that I'm recording to finish up the album before it gets sent to print. So you can do that again at thepuppups.bandcamp.com. But I'm going on the other end of the spectrum of my music for closing out this episode because we got to get something that fits in the vibe of this insane score from Baby Invasion. So I'm going to go with a track that's actually a preview of my next David Rosen album. This is a song called Bullet in the Head that will be on my next album. I actually just finished this track like a week ago. I'm still finishing it. The album is like 80% done. It's not going to come out till like the end of the year though, but I keep tinkering away with all these songs, and this one I just put the finishing touches on. So let's play it. Why not? It's a nice preview of the next album, which is going to be very heavy, and I'm very excited to share with you all. But hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back with more piecing it together real soon.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.